Well, video to our monitors take us to the Big Apple, where the federal racketeering and sex trafficking case against Sean Diddy Combs is underway. So here's what's happening right now. Jury selection started earlier this morning. The hip-hop artist faces 5 counts, including racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. Combs pleaded not guilty, but faces decades in prison. So let's bring in CBS News correspondent Jericka Duncan. Jericka, first of all, good to see you, even though you're having to be under an umbrella there, my friend.
Great to see you, Reed.
We understand that you have an update on what happened in court. Tell me about that.
That's right. It appears that at least 2 of those jurors have been seated. I just left court about 15 minutes ago, and they are still questioning jurors. Remember, they need 12 that they will seat and 6 alternates for this federal case against Sean Diddy Combs. And just to give you a sense of some of the questions that the jurors were asked before they were questioned by the judge and also prosecutors as well as the defense team, if they had any issues with sexual assault, if they had any experience with it, their views from the prosecution on law enforcement. They were asked if they received any training or had any experience with psychiatry, psychology, addiction, law enforcement. They also asked about any questions or reservations they had about artists and the hip-hop community, witnesses that will testify under immunity. So this is just a few of the questions that sort of give us a look into what each side is looking for when it comes to that impartiality of a juror. And many times over, the judge mentioned that Sean Diddy Combs is presumed innocent unless he is found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. He mentioned that over and over again to each juror that was questioned. Last check, though, about 9 jurors had been questioned, 2 that we know that were seated, in which the prosecution and the defense agreed they were comfortable with seating those jurors. So a lot to learn throughout the next couple of days, which is how long the judge said this should last. They're hoping to get through about 50 jurors each day. But both sides recognize how difficult this case will be in terms of getting that right jury pool to make sure that folks don't come in here with preconceived ideas because of that video that went viral that we saw of what appears to be Sean Combs kicking and dragging his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. But this really comes down to a federal case, the U.S. government, United States government against Sean Combs, facing sex trafficking and racketeering charges, which could get him up to life in prison if he's convicted on all charges.
Well, Jericka, if I'm in that courtroom, I have a huge question in my mind, whether I'm with a prosecution or defense, and that is, how can I seat a jury in a case against one of the most famous men on the planet, and especially now infamous, made more infamous by that video you talked about? It's a challenge.
It really is, Reed, and I think that's why even with the questionnaires that these jurors filled out, it was an opportunity for both sides to ask questions to those jurors based on how they filled out that questionnaire. There were some other telling moments in what we are now learning about some of the people and places, for instance, that jurors were asked about if they were familiar with. For instance, one juror said that they were familiar with, I believe it wasn't, stand by because it is wet outside and I want to make sure I get it right. It was number 88, and that was apparently Michael B. Jordan. And then there was number 117, Mike Myers. So these were jurors saying that they were familiar with pictures of these people, but just knowing them as actors or celebrities. Then there were parts where the judge said, what about number 133? You had a question about that person. And this was juror number 4. They said, I know them as a celebrity, but in that case, the judge didn't mention them by name. And just as I was leaving, another juror was asked about Kanye West in terms of what that juror knew about Kanye West or their feelings or thoughts about him. So we don't know how that will play into this trial, whether this is a situation where maybe one of the witnesses or alleged victims says they saw people at a party, or whether these were just people that were at a Diddy party that we've talked about along with this case. So it's too early to presume exactly what that means, but there are a number of locations and people that these jurors were already shown to find out their connection to or just how familiar they are with some of these people and places.
All right, Jericka Duncan, CBS News. Always great to talk to you, my friend. Let's hope the rain lets up for the Met Gala that's happening in New York as well. We don't want to see anybody under an umbrella for that iconic event. Thank you so much, my friend. Take care.